Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is another what I read in a month. So this is what I read in November. I didn't actually get around to filming my October one because I was just really busy with college and had no time, but I want to film this month. So yeah, so let's just get started. So the first book I read this month was Heart Bones by Colleen Hoover, my favourite author. So this book is about Bea, and so Bea lives with her mum. So Bea's mum passed away at the start of this book, so she has no one to live with, and because she's so young she can't live by herself. So for the summer she decides to go visit her dad, and then after that she'll be going to college to Texas. Her dad comes and picks her up and she goes to her dad's summer house, and that she spends summer there, and that is where she meets Samson, which is the love interest. So Samson and Bea, they don't really get along at the start, but then they form some kind of fling, and they decided it would only be like a summer fling, but then it never just becomes just a fling, does it? And there's a huge plot twist in this that I didn't expect, and it was just crazy, and I loved this. But this was like one of my top books. So my favourite Colleen Hoover books are Without Merit, then this, then Reminders of Him. So yeah, but I would definitely recommend this. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. This book, because when I first read a book, let me just explain this first. Like Colleen Hoover books, they have like, at the start it's always like something really dramatic, so you're really like drawn to read it. Some books are not like this, but this one, it just starts off really good, so I was obsessed with it. So this is about Ren and Crew. So Ren she's kind of new to the school. She's not really, but she's kind of new, and she is kind of popular because she has a purity ring, and she made a promise to her dad not to sleep with any boys until she gets married. So Crew brings it upon himself to decide that he is going to be the one to sleep with her before then. It's a bit weird, yeah, but it's cute. So it's kind of like an enemies to lovers, because they didn't like each other at the start, and then they kind of just fall in love with each other. So she's obsessed with this painting called A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime. Let me just show you it. I'm obsessed with this painting now because of this book. This is what the painting looks like. Oh, you can't see it, but it's 1,000,000 kisses of Chanel lipstick on a canvas. So this is kind of what this cover is supposed to be. I can't say much about this book because it'll spoil it, but yeah, it's a really good book, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. The book I read was my first Christina Lauren book, which is The Soulmate Equation. This is about Jessica, and she is a single mum to a little girl. First of all, this book is in third person, and I've never read a book in third person before, but it's like really fast paced and goes really fast. It's really fast. I read it faster than a normal book if it was in first person, if that makes sense. But yeah, this is about Jessica, and she's like a single mum. She meets Dr. River. I don't think either of them, yeah, they both didn't like each other at the start, but he designed this like company to find your soulmate from your like DNA, and he's first person to do it, and she decides to be like a to test it out, and they find out that they're soulmates. So they hated each other, but they had to show the world. The world found, like, everyone found out, so they had to like fake date. It's like a fake dating trope. So they had to like pretend that they're dating, but obviously no fake dating lasts. It always ends up in a relationship, and they fall in love with each other. And then the plot, Jesus Christ, the plot was crazy. I wouldn't say this is like a favourite book of mine. I enjoyed it, but I wouldn't say it's like a 5-star read. So I gave it a 3.5. So yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't my favourite. The next book I read was Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. So this book starts off with Jordan. Jordan, she is just turned 19, and she is having a bad birthday, and she meets Pike, which he's like 38, and they have like a strong connection, but then she finds out it's her boyfriend's dad. And then her and her boyfriend end up breaking up because he cheated on her. And then they were living with his dad because he got them in this situation which they got kicked out of their apartment, so they moved in with his dad, and that's how she found out that it was his dad. Pike was his dad. So Pike says she can still live with him because his son moves out to go live with this other girl, and then they two end up, Pike and Jordan end up like forming a relationship. It's like a forbidden love kind of thing, age gap romance, you know. It's a good book. Yeah, I loved this book and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Okay, the other book I read, I actually do not have it with me because I gave it to my auntie because she's gone on holiday. So I read A Thousand Boy Kisses next. That is about Poppy and Rune. Poppy and Rune, he moves in next door to her when they're like 5, and they like become best friends. And then when they're 8, Poppy's gran passes away, but before she passes away she gave Poppy a jar of 1,000 paper hearts in a jar that are blank, and told Poppy to write down every memorable kiss on all the hearts and to get 1,000 kisses in her lifetime. But then Rune moves away when they're 13 and they want to keep in contact, but then Poppy stopped talking to Rune, and then when he came back 2 years later he was very angry at her for not telling him why, and they find out why, and I can't say because that'll ruin it, but that book was, I cried for days. Let me just say that, I cried for days. But yeah, I gave that a 5 out of 5. It was, most of these books are 5 out of 5 except from one, but probably 5 out of 5 now that I'm looking at them. But yeah, it was a good book. The next book I read was Pack Up the Moon by Kristen Higgins. This book I was very hesitant to read because, sorry, 1 minute. Someone's making noise. So this book I was really hesitant to read because TikTok, book talk, you just ruin the books, the spoilers. Yeah, I was a bit hesitant. I actually had really bad anxiety before reading this, but it was a really good book. So this is about Joshua and Lauren. It starts off with Lauren is like really sick and she's dying basically. Is that like a spoiler? Right, no, it says on the back. So they're like newly married and Lauren gets diagnosed with a terminal illness and gets like told she doesn't have that long to live, like a couple years. I don't actually remember the name. Yeah, it was a weird name, but I can't remember it. And he really struggles to come to terms with her never going to be with him in the future. So she brings it upon herself to write 12 letters for after she dies. So she gives these letters to her best friend, so after she dies, every month he'd get a letter to help him deal with her being gone and to move on. And the love that this man had for her, I sobbed. He was heartbroken and he was so upset, and they didn't get to have children and they didn't get to have the future that they wanted, and it was just so sad. He manages to move on, but yeah, this book had, this and A Thousand Boy Kisses had me sobbing. I'm like actually speechless, I don't even know what to say. So this was obviously a 5 out of 5. This book, all my book, like any book I read, it's just 5 out of 5. Next book I read was Love in Other Words. If you're on Book Talk, if you're on BookTube, if you just read books, you know what this book is. Everybody has read this book. It's by Christina Lauren. First of all, I didn't know this was two people, Christina Lauren, but it is. This book is about Macy and Elliot. So Macy's mum passes. Why are their parents like passing away and all in every single book I'm reading? Why does someone just die? Okay, in 4 of the books I've read this month, people are dead. Die. That's, I'm a very morbid person. So this is about Macy and Elliot. So Macy's mum had passed away and gave her dad a list of things to do with Macy and how to give her a good future. So one of the things was to get like a kind of vacation house somewhere. So her dad gets a vacation house somewhere. When I read it, it was like a woodsy place. I don't know, it's a setting, it's like a cabin, and it's next door to Elliot, and she meets Elliot because he's reading a book in her wardrobe, which is a bit weird. Yeah, they become best friends, inseparable. They read together, sit in her closet and they read together. That's one of their favourite things to do. And whenever they're reading, he asks her or she asks him favourite word, and they give their favourite word, and I think it's just so cute. So as they get older, they begin to have feelings for each other, and somewhere they start like dating, but then something happens and they stop talking for 11 years, and then they meet again, spot each other in a cafe, and they don't really talk about what happened, but at the end they do, and you just find out what happened to Elliot, and what she thought happened didn't really happen. It was something else. But yeah, it was sad, but their love, the love that these men have for all of these women in all of these books, is just something unheard of. It's just, I want this love from someone. But yeah, this was a 5 out of 5. It was so cute. I recommend this to everyone. And the last book I read this month, which, it was The Things We Leave Unfinished. This book, honestly, I cherish this book with everything I am. This book is about Georgia, and Georgia has just gotten a divorce with her husband because he cheated on her. Lovely, innit? So Georgia goes back to her hometown, and her great granny, her like favourite person in the world, had just passed away. and she's a novelist. She writes books. That just cut out, sorry. So yeah, her great granny is a novelist and she writes books, like romance books. And she wrote a book about her like past love, the man she married during the war, Jameson, and it kind of just, she tells how they fell in love and their life together during the war. Jameson passes away during the war. He's like he flies the plane. Flies the planes. Yeah, he flies the planes during the war. Obviously, if you're flying a plane during the war, it's kind of dangerous, and he ends up passing away. And she doesn't really recover from that, and she's heartbroken because the love that they two had for each other was one of the most unheard of kind of loves I've ever heard of, because only loves that I hear that are like this are in books. But yeah, so her gran had written this all down, but she had left it unfinished because it was just too painful for her to write about. So Georgia's mum pretended to be her and tried to get the book published and tried to finish it, but Georgia comes in and decides she doesn't want it published and she doesn't want it finished. But then she ends up managing to change her mind, and Noah is one of the lead protagonists in this book, who obviously Georgia falls in love with. Noah is finishing the book, and him and Georgia, they end up forming a fling, she calls it, and says that after you finish this book, we're not going to be nothing. But he's like, in his head, he's like, no, we are going to be together, and he makes it his job to make sure they're together after he finishes this book. And he had already finished the book way earlier before he planned, so he pretends for 6 weeks that he hasn't finished the book when he has, so they had more time together and more time to like fall in love with each other. And when she finds this out, she's so angry and she wants him away from her and doesn't want to speak to her, so he goes way back to New York, where he's from, and the book comes out, he gets hate for it. The bloody plot twist of this book, I did not expect it. But yeah, after they got over what happened with them, they end up falling in love. They're together and they're inseparable. That book is a 5 out of 5, like most of my books. So yeah, this is what I have read this month, and I think this is one of the best reading months I have had, because all these books were amazing and I loved them all. And I have no more room for books, but I got myself a book cart, like, you know, the Tik Tok book carts. And yeah, so go check out my Goodreads, because if you want to stay updated with what I read, my Goodreads is Aleisha, and that's what it looks like. I can't show it's not working, but yeah, that's my Goodreads, so go check that out, go follow it. Follow me on Instagram at itsaleishac, and subscribe and like for more book content. And I'm sorry that I didn't post a book review last month, but I had no time. So yeah, and also, as I say with every book video, these are just my opinions on the books that I read. If you don't like my opinions, I'm sorry, but they're just my opinions and my preferences when it comes to reading. But yeah, so thank you for watching and hope to see you next time. Bye.